Hi, I'm James Randi, but you already knew that, didn't you? And the gentleman sitting beside me here is an old friend from way back. We're going to ad-lib this. We're just going to wing it. We're just going to talk. He walked into the foundation a matter of minutes ago, announced who he was. I recognized him, and now we're going to give you the pleasure of knowing Michael Edwards. You don't know the name? Well, you know about the Alpha Kids. And Michael Edwards was one of the two Alpha Kids, along with Steve Shaw, now known as the mentalist Banacheck, with whom you'll be much more familiar. And this gentleman just walked in because he was on a business trip and decided that he was going through Fort Lauderdale. He might as well drop in and see the old duck and see if he's still alive. And you notice that I am.
I have noticed that.
Yes, indeed. Now, let me just run over very briefly our association. And not all the details.
No, not all of them, please.
No,
Okay.
not at all, no.
I think the statute of limitations
what
has run
year was
out
it?
on some of those.
That's true. What year was it, actually?
Originally, I approached you, and we started talking about Project Alpha in 1979. I was a 17-year-old high school senior.
Good gravy.
And then started working with the Mac Lab in November of '79. And before then by the time that we've actually exposed it, it was February of 1983.
Wow. He has all the dates. That's it, folks. Good night.
Thank you.
Now, what you've just heard about is some of the details behind the beginnings of Project Alpha. This was done with some scientists, and I use the term in quotes, at Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri. And it was it was an infiltration thing. It was a scam. Freely admitted, it was a scam. We had to show that parapsychologists, when they thought they had a red-hot subject on hand, would decline to call in magicians. And it turns out that Mike here was an amateur magician at the time, and so was Steve Shaw, as I say now, Banacheck. And I made an agreement with them that if they went into the Mac Lab and all they had to do was apply and give a plausible story about how they obtained their psychic forces, ho, 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 that if they applied and they got in there, that I would more or less monitor the whole operation, but I wouldn't tell them what to do. I would just react to what had been done in the lab that particular week. This went on for 3 years, as you say, Mike.
I did.
And over that 3-year period, the guys would call me, and this is in the days before internet and Skype and a few other things like that, of course. They'd call me, and they'd, in between bouts of laughter, they would report what had just happened in the lab. These two guys, Steve and Mike, absolutely flummoxed the people at Washington State University. I won't mention names. There's no reason for doing that, because these folks are still with us. They're still around and still working hard, and they are academics, and they deserve our respect. But they fooled them. The Alpha Kids really fooled them into believing that they, the Alpha Kids, had psychic powers of various kinds. And all of this will be handled in commercial. My new book, A Magician in the Laboratory, which is forming up right now. Now, Mike has to get away very soon. He's on a business trip after all. But I'm going to put into his hot little hands, I'm going to put a copy of the chapter on the Alpha Kids for his approval and perhaps for a few tears as well, but we'll find out about that later on. Now, you were an amateur magician.
I was.
You knew about mentalism and that sort of thing, and you had contacted me, and Steve had contacted me separately. They didn't know one another.
That is correct.
And they just letter to the effect, if you ever have to test a parapsychologist to see what they're doing, I'd be your man. And I didn't know what to do with these two letters that I received, and I stuck them in a file called Alpha. Not much imagination there, but it worked out very well for us. And eventually I had the two of them, and I thought to myself, wait a minute, what's in the news right now is that $500,000 have been given by McDonnell Douglas Aircraft Corporation.
Yep, James McDonnell.
By James McDonnell
Yep.
himself, now well deceased, and so he won't sue us.
Exactly.
That's always a relief.
Is well deceased different than
very
deceased?
well deceased, yes.
Okay.
And I thought, hey, this would be a great place to send in the two kids. And I told them, contact them, give them a plausible story, and by golly, you were accepted, Steve was accepted, and there was another fellow. What was the fellow's name? He wasn't a kid. He was the other fellow that carried on with you guys and that you mixed with, and such, the so-called psychic there.
Oh, Tom Richards.
Tom Richards,
Tom
exactly.
Richards.
I had forgotten the name.
Yes.
Thank you.
Who cloaked himself as a researcher,
Yeah.
even though he was generating the phenomenon himself.
Yes. Now we'll go into a couple of anecdotes on how you guys caught Richards. It was
Okay.
very evident to you, and I don't think he was really trying to hide it from you guys necessarily.
I don't think he was very good, first of
That's
all.
one
But,
reason, yeah. But it was enough to fool the scientists.
Well, it was. As I said, it doesn't take much to
Now,
do that.
If I look at it this way, these scientists were well-trained academics. They weren't just people off the streets. They
Absolutely.
had training in science. They knew the scientific method, but they thought they knew too much. They thought that they couldn't be fooled because they had degrees. That's the way I have to look at it.
That's very true. Plus, I think they thought that because they were so smart and they were good in their specific fields,
Mm-hmm.
let's say a professor of physics doesn't expect the physical properties of something to willingly and knowingly cheat
Exactly.
and deceive him. Whereas it would have been far better, I think, as a test if you had somebody with a psychology background, at least,
Yes.
that knew that the subjects in these particular tests, Steve and I,
Yeah.
were really out to deceive them.
And I must say that and when you see this whole episode, as I will describe it in my book, remember the book? It was simple. The easy things that you guys did. Now let's get into a couple of examples
Okay.
of that. There was one I remember, and we've got it on the tape, as a matter of fact, on the videotape. That was 8mm film in those days, I believe, or 16mm. I'd forgotten.
Back in those days, it was, yes, powered by dinosaurs. Yes.
in days before videotape was easily available. And I must say that I was astonished at one episode there where a spoon apparently bent without it being touched, but we won't get into all those details at the moment. The point was that the spoon had gained a few micrograms in weight because they'd all been very carefully weighed, and they had little tags, little like clothing tags with string put around the neck of them. And I had told Phillips, I said his name, sorry. I had told him, be sure that the spoons and the various props are carefully, permanently marked and identified in such a way that the identification marks can't be changed and they're all cataloged and photographed. But he decided not to do that. He would just put little paper tags on them with a string and whatnot. And what you guys had done was simply slip off one of these
Switch
and
the
put
tags.
another one on that you knew the spoon would be slightly different in weight.
Right.
And they were astonished. The spoon actually gained weight.
Well, and it actually changed shape because that's the one that I moved off to the side and started working with another one
Yeah.
and leaned on the neck of the original spoon so that the cameraman couldn't see it, and a miracle happened.
But there you see, folks, that's how easy it was to fool the scientists. Because the scientists said, oh, we're dealing with kids here. Kids can't fool PhDs. Oh, yes, they can. And they did. No question of it whatsoever. Now, other examples. Give us another example of how
Well,
easy it was.
First of all, let me back up for a second and say that it wasn't easy, because while you were actually working with us as part of Project Alpha, you were making our job harder.
Yeah.
Because every time we would tell you a new technique, how we delivered something,
Exactly.
you would write off a letter to Phillips
Saying
and
something
basically
big.
said, you know, for example, if you're letting people handle things, don't do it. If the boys are touching objects, don't let them do this. Keep this thing more controlled. So you were putting in safeguards that they didn't think of. And so Steve and I would show up the next time that we were at the lab and go, oh, that darn Randy. The parapsychologists weren't getting smarter. You were educating them better. Which made our job much more difficult.
I was being perfectly fair.
Yes,
Now,
you
I
were.
hadn't
Yes,
been
you were.
retained by them. I hadn't even had the agreement. I agreed to serve with no payment whatsoever. If they wanted me to go there, they had to pay my transportation and my hotel. That's all I wanted. I didn't want any remuneration for it personally. To me, not at all. I never asked for that, and I refused to take it. But the point was that when you offer your services like that, they look at you and they say, why would he do a thing like that? There must be something wrong. Well, there was something wrong, but it wasn't with me. It was with you guys.
Exactly right. where the Mac lab was located was a professional medical building.
Yes.
Medico locks, and you can attest to the
Oh, yes.
unpickable nature of
Oh,
a
yeah.
medico lock.
They were Medco locks, I remember that.
And in the lab, Phillips actually carried a key that was the door key for all the rooms inside of the lab. And one night, after a long day of testing and where nothing really happened, I guess something spectacular happened, because we got a call very early the next morning. It said it looked like a psychic tornado had hit the Mac lab. Objects were moved around, spoons and forks were bent. There was actually things that had happened inside of a sealed laboratory that they had, and they were very amazed by this, and they really kind of put that or gave credit to the fact that it was, like, in their own words, a psychic tornado had hit, but it was the cause of us building up all of our energies that day and being frustrated by not having it work, and it hit at night.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, the fact was, I couldn't pick the locks. As you know, I used to be an escape artist. I couldn't pick the locks to get into the lab, but I could leave one of the windows open. And Steve and I, at 2 in the morning, slipped into the lab, twisted all the metal we could find to move the objects around, changed the times on the clocks, and then surreptitiously got out of the building without leaving any trace of that.
And the next morning when you came in to see the site of the crime, you carefully locked the window again.
Oh, no.
No?
Remember, doors are made to keep people out,
Yes.
much like a safe,
Yeah.
not made to keep you in.
True.
So the doors would lock behind us as we left. So we entered through the window, left through the doors, everything was locked up, the scene of the crime was
I
pristine.
see. I did not know that. That's a very good touch.
I also did that, tried to do that once on an individual trip when I was down there. Did the same entry method, committed the same crime, got ready to leave, looked at the window to make sure it was locked, and there's 2 big black footmarks, because it was a garden level office, where I had crawled in through the window from the bottom of my shoes down the wall. Fortunately, there was a supply closet with a lot of paper towels and 409, so at 2:30 in the morning I was washing the walls of the Mac lab, and to this day they probably don't know that that happened.
They probably haven't washed them since either,
Probably
for
haven't.
all we know. But now you see, folks, we're preparing this bit of a videotape, an impromptu videotape, as you see, in order that you can begin to recognize just how easy it was for these so-called psychics, the 2 kids that went into the Mac lab there. It was named after McDonnell, by the way, just in case you're wondering. They got in there, they went in there, then they got in there later on by surreptitious means, as you've just heard. They got in there and they did these things, and they did stuff right in front of the scientists as well that were so simple and direct, but the scientists never caught them. Because, as Mike said earlier, they don't look for the rats that they're using experiments, or the rabbits or whatever. They don't look for them to play tricks on them. But human beings will do that. Now, do you recall the thing where you had a Polaroid camera and a picture was taken? I believe it was a picture of you, and a ghost appeared on your shirt. Do you
Actually,
remember that?
it was my face that was ghosted
that's-
on the sweater of somebody else.
I
Exactly
see.
right.
So yeah,
Yes.
that was a black sweater.
Yep.
And you took a picture with the Polaroid camera, and you made a double exposure,
Right.
and the double exposure was of you.
Yes.
And
It was actually angled from the camera down here, angled up at my face.
I see.
And then just the picture taken, and then we set the camera there. Waited for somebody else then to take a picture of somebody.
Ah,
So we didn't touch the camera as far as they knew. The
Who
magic
knew?
was already done
exactly,
15 minutes
exactly.
earlier.
Because in those days you could make a double exposure on a Polaroid.
But they didn't know that.
They didn't know that.
They didn't try to take a test picture first and then do the subject picture. So instead, once they pulled it out, let it develop, then there's this ghost-like image that was there, that it was distorted just enough you couldn't tell who it was. Another miracle.
Yeah. And of course they raved over that.
Oh,
They
of
got all
course,
excited.
of course, of course. It was something simple as the, if you remember the old bell jar.
Oh, yes.
Which was a glass dome set with a wooden
Yeah.
base and a spindle inside of it. They coated the bottom with aluminum. I don't know why. Trying to make it non-magnetic, but it was a paper rotor, and you'd set this bell jar on top of the ridge of this, basically like one of those old
A clock.
watch, clock, yeah,
or clock
crystal.
Yeah, display case.
And all of a sudden, we were able to start moving the rotor inside of there.
How did you do it, Mike?
Well,
you tell our audience.
I can't come up with that. I can't claim credit for that technique. It was actually Steve.
Oh, okay.
And what he learned was if you set it in and you didn't really seat that bell jar inside of there, it would actually leave a little bit of a crack. And just by licking his lips, keeping his mouth open just a little bit, he could breathe on that. The air would hit the jar, go right underneath the crack, and cause that rotor to spin. And if he turned his head to the other side, he could go the other way. So now, needless to say, that was very impressive.
And this is on the
oh, this is on the tape.
Labs,
yeah, on the MacLab tape.
Yeah, on the MacLab tape.
Absolutely
yeah.
right.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
And
it was something just as simple as blowing on.
Yeah, but we know other psychics, I mean professional psychics out there who do it for, I was going to say for real, they do it for real money. The professional psychics out there use tricks very similar to that in many cases.
I'm really, it's kind of disappointing that you say that because we never got paid for ours, and I thought we were pretty good.
I thought I sent you a check.
Maybe we should. Maybe we should have gone in business for ourselves.
Yeah. Well, you're in another business right now, but we might not mention that. But the point is, yes, that's the point, of course, folks. That well, I myself could have become a psychic a long, long time ago if I'd had the nerve and if I'd had the will to be deceptive and really cheat and lie to people. As a magician, yes, I cheat and lie, but I do it for purposes of entertainment. That's what we do in the trade,
Absolutely
of course.
Right.
And though Mike is no longer a magician, you don't have to worry. Don't guard your wallet. Well, hey.
Were you looking for this?
Yes, thank you. I must say that I think we're all fortunate that the Alpha Kids didn't decide to take off and go out on their own, because when Discover Magazine and Time Magazine and all of these national media outlets featured you, and you were on the Today Show and
several our own 60-minute special.
On 60-minute special, that's right.
Magic or Miracle.
Magic or Miracle, that's true. All of these things, if you had maintained the masquerade, you two guys could have become a great team and gone out there and made a small fortune. Now, Banacheck, Steve Shaw, is doing very well for himself as a mentalist, but as you know, he's very careful to say that all of what you've seen here is accomplished by trickery. I am not a mentalist, I'm not a mind reader, I'm not a psychic, I'm a mentalist. And a mentalist simply means a magician who performs in such a way that you think it's all done with the mind. That's not true, folks. And honest mentalists out there will confess that to you very easily and should admit it right up front. Mike, I'm not going to keep you much longer because I want to save the rest for the book.
Okay, absolutely.
But listen, it's been a great pleasure.
I don't think you've plugged the book yet, though. Maybe you should
No,
plug
I
it
should
one
plug
more
the
time.
book, shouldn't I? Mike, thank you for coming by. It's a great
Randy,
pleasure to see you after all these years.
On behalf of myself, I know I speak for Steve, and I know I speak for the community out there, the skeptical community. We wouldn't be in this position without you, excuse me, without your guidance. I'm getting a little choked up. Without your leadership, without your drive, your determination. As I said, it was 27 years ago that we completed Project Alpha, and you've only gotten more driven, more entrenched, and more committed to this cause. So
Yes,
on behalf of all the skeptics out there, I'd like to thank you for your
Thank you
leadership
very
in
much,
this
Mike.
area.
It's been a pleasure talking with Mike Edwards, one of the original Alpha Kids. This was an impromptu tape just bundled together this afternoon with the assistance of our very fine videographer here. And we thank everybody for their patience over the last few minutes. And if you have comments to make on this, we'll both be very pleased to hear your comments. Meanwhile, my book will be coming out in about a year or so. Oh, I didn't...
I was going to remind you
that's
about
very
that,
true,
but that's a
very
good
true.
plug.
Thank you very much, Mike. Yeah, thanks. But I ask you to take a look at that and see the true story of the whole Alpha hoax. It's a good story. It's a major chapter in my book, and I hope you'll be reading it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm James Randi. This is Mike Edwards, and we bid you bye-bye.
We thank you for watching this latest episode of James Randi Speaks. For more of James Randi and the Educational Foundation, make sure you visit randi.org.